Hi, welcome to the Leadership and Culture Bite. This is Dr. Simeon Roger, and this is where we talk about how superbly trained visionary leaders create rapid innovation killer teams and the organization everybody wants to join. And today we're going to be talking about how your intelligence gathering can actually be wrecking your strategic decision making, can sabotage it. So, making strategic decisions is a leadership prerogative, leadership responsibility at a certain level, making strategic decisions for an organization. But what do you make those decisions based on? Well, of course, you make it based on the gathering of intelligence. You may not think of it that way, but basically it's assessing your environment and then deciding which direction to take your organization in. This way, that way, it depends on how you assess a situation, doesn't it? So understanding the environment in front of you is critical. Now, there are some lessons here from the conflict in Ukraine. And again, we'd like to thank the armed forces of the Russian Federation, actually its political leadership too, for providing us with these wonderful lessons in what not to do. And, we see the first intelligence failure the Russians had was their intelligence equipped them, certainly equipped Putin and the general staff, to undertake an operation based on completely faulty assumptions. The assumption was this is going to be a short operation. It's basically we go into Ukraine, people welcome us with bouquets of flowers that they're throwing at our troops. It's a quick, easy mission, and it's over in 72 hours. And Bob's your uncle. Great. Didn't turn out that way, as we all know. But why? Why? How could it have been so wrong? How could a country that devotes so many resources historically and right now to the gathering of intelligence, how could it get everything this wrong? Well, of course, dictators can fall for their own propaganda, but that's a bit of another problem. Uh, what we see here, as far as we can tell, is that Vladimir Putin followed the intelligence assessment of only one of his intelligence sources, which was, strangely enough, the FSB. So he took the assessment given by the FSB's foreign intelligence uh, arm and swallow that hook, line, and sinker. And they apparently told him exactly what he wanted to hear. This will be easy. They'll welcome you as a liberator. It will all be good. Big problem here. The FSB isn't qualified to do this. It's not a foreign intelligence service. Yes, they have a department, the one that gave him the assessment, which is responsible for sort of keeping all the former Soviet republics in Moscow's orbit, but it's unqualified, clearly unqualified to undertake this. But what about Russia's actual foreign intelligence services? What about the SVR, which is the former foreign intelligence arm of the KGB? What about the GRU, the military intelligence, the chief intelligence directorate of the general staff? Where were they? Where were their assessments? We don't know. Of course, we're not inside the Kremlin, so we have no idea if there was any sort of competing information at all, but we kind of doubt it. And this kind of catastrophe is particularly Russian. It's very typical. We found this even in Soviet times. There was a time in 1983 when Soviet Communist Party boss Yuri Andropov, who was the former chairman of the KGB, tasked all the worldwide resources of the KGB with proving that the United States was about to launch a surprise nuclear attack on the Soviet Union. Now, aside from the rampant paranoia involved in such a bizarre thing, any analyst worth their salt would look at something like that, would look at that tasking and say, confirmation bias, bit of a problem coming here. Yes, because the real purpose of intelligence is to sort out truth from falsehood. That's why it exists. It's there to tell you the truth. And if you're not open to the truth, you're not going to get it. Uh, so whose fault is this? Well, clearly it's not the organization's fault, it's the leadership's fault. If you create a culture where you're not open to being told the truth, if you signal to your subordinates, who are the heads of these organizations, that what you want to hear is what they'd better tell you, then you're going to get false information. Unless you're open to things that make you uncomfortable, you're going to be misled. And clearly, Putin was misled or misled himself, however you want to interpret that. Now, one lesson here is that every organization needs multiple sources of intelligence. You can't rely on just one. You have to have multiple and competing sources that will give you this well-rounded picture of the environment. It's the only way to get the well-rounded picture and to avoid confirmation bias and other cognitive traps. So, if you look back to the United States, think of U.S. military planning in the Vietnam War. In the Vietnam War, at the beginning, certainly the Americans they'd put a team of people together to plan an upcoming operation or campaign of some variety. These people would work together. They'd come up with what they thought was an unbelievably great plan. And then every time in in operations, when they went to implement this plan, it would fall apart completely. Now, why was that? Well, it was discovered, and this is the origin of the psychological principle or psychological trap of groupthink. What was discovered was that if you put people in a room together to talk about a problem, the more they talk about it, the more they will agree. And the more they agree, the more it will seem to them like they have landed on the perfect solution and that there is no other possibility. Once the Americans realized this, they changed their entire planning system, planning structure to avoid groupthink. Yes, people would develop a plan, then they'd throw it to the wolves and let others tear it apart. And whatever came out of that typically was an operational plan that did work. So big difference. So ask yourself, where does your business intelligence come from? Do you have only one unit that is providing you with business intelligence? If you do, that's a problem. Does their information come from multiple sources? It better. If it doesn't, there's another problem. Um, does your system encourage contrary analyses? Are you open to different and competing, diametrically opposed points of view? If you're not, again, there's a big problem. So, based on these simple questions, you know what you need to do now to make sure that your organization is equipped to make better strategic decisions. That's it for now. I'm Dr. Simeon Roger. Thank you so much for joining us. Keep an eye out for what's coming, and we'll talk to you again soon.